Hey guys.
Hey, Melly.
Hey guys. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Did everyone have a great weekend?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Actually, yeah, it was okay. Real estate license, right? Just kidding. Bop. No, we're going to go over open houses today, which I'm really excited about. I love doing open houses, and I'm excited to share some of the techniques and a couple of tricks on how to secure some open houses for yourself. Because as we all know, typically for an open house, you need a listing sometimes, but I'm going to show you that you don't necessarily need a listing to do the open house. I mean, you'll need someone's listing, but you don't need your listing. And people forget about that. And so we always have a lot of listings in the office. And so actually right now it's the inventory, as is the market, is fairly low, but we have a bunch of them that went under contract pretty quickly. So as I said, I'll wait for a couple more people because I want to show this before I forget to show it to y'all, because it's something no one ever showed me for probably a year and a half until I was into the business. And it would have been so much easier than me walking down the hallway of like, hey, do you have an open house I can do this weekend? You know, because that's, after a while, you kind of feel like a pest. This way you can kind of target and create those relationships between other agents in the office too, which is super important. So it's good. Okay, where are we at? We're about half here. So I think I'll go ahead and show you. I got to make sure I have the right screen though. Matrix, okay. We're just going to go dashboard. So I'm going to go back over to sharing. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen with you to show you guys how to pull up listings. Well, first of all, does anyone know how to pull up listings in the office specifically?
No.
AWLS?
Okay. I didn't know on FMLS, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know, just on FMLS, not on KWLS.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to do it, frankly, because KWLS may not have, well, first of all, we know sometimes your listings aren't there. It doesn't acknowledge my listing to me that I have right now. For example, I have to go hunt and find for it. But also, FMLS is going to have the most up-to-date information whether or not that house is under contract or not. So that's kind of important. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And where's my matrix? God, with my glasses on, I still can't do anything. There we go. Ah, I tell you. I'm happy I'm getting older because I wouldn't want the alternative, but sometimes I tell you, like I feel like my glasses aren't good enough. Okay, so we're just in your regular first page of matrix, right? You're going to go and do a search here. You're going to go search residential. You can choose whether or not you want attached or detached. Here, I'm going to go both actually, so we can see. And then you'll probably look on here and you'll be like, oh my gosh, well, there's no place to put the office. Well, to do that, you need to actually add one of the additional fields here. So you're going to go down to the bottom. You're going to click on Add Remove. And they changed the name of it. I was like, darn it, what do they have it under? But it's basically under List Agent. You can search properties by an agent. Like if you know, like, oh, Susan said to look at her properties and I didn't ask her what the addresses were. So you could pull up my name, or you can do the office code. So, and I already have that here. So then you just click Add, and then you go back. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down here. So I have it in one of my extra fields that I use sometimes for different clients. And I'm going to type in KWRO01. And boom, 52 matches. Because I pulled up both single family homes and attached. So then what this does is it allows you to go down. So instead of, let's say, for example, there's an area you want to target on. Say you want to be in, I don't know, Roswell. So I'm going to sort by city. Or let's say Alpharetta, since it's A and it's at the top there. So, okay, great. Hybrid, I'm going to do that. Well, first of all, some of the higher price properties, just FYI, don't necessarily do open houses. Country Club of the South is not a big fan of it. So some neighborhoods might not work. So let's just say Atlanta, for example. So I'm going to pull up this Atlanta. I'm going to find out who the agent is. And I'm going to go, Jamie, I'd love to hold your open house this weekend or any weekend that you have coming up. Let me know. So that allows you to kind of create a relationship with Jamie basically and know what properties are on the market. Does that make sense? Or does anyone have any questions on that?
This is great. Thank you. I was trying to figure out how to identify these. So
I know
thank you.
No one ever told me for like a year and a half. And so I want to impart that to you early.
So you just do the add remove field of the office code?
Correct.
Search through that? Okay, cool. That's great.
Correct. You can also do it too. If you ever need to look up like, like a particular agent is a big buyer's agent, you want to see maybe where they're focusing, you can pull it up by buyer's agent. I mean, there's a slew of categories there that you can do. Down here, I'll go back down. Like if you add in the category, I mean, there's so many different things. Like I had a client who we were looking for a particular type of pool. It could be for, I don't know, does it have a basement, carport garage? There's so many different things in here you can have that aren't necessarily in the main search area. So this is a really great thing to do. FHA condo approval, for example, is a really great one because not all condos are FHA approved. Because if their HOA is behind or in arrears in any way, shape, or form, they're not approved. They don't have their finances up to date to the Secretary of State.
Rick.
That's a big.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
She's on phone here.
Yeah.
I didn't see from your text. I don't know the whole story of what happened.
Okay, everyone else has been muted. I'm unmuted, I think. Can you hear me? Somebody give me a thumbs up.
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Thanks. Anyway, so there's a lot of different things that you can do search-wise that you can add to your search features that you need to. But that's the easy way to do it, to find open houses. And so just a simple thing. And I wanted to show you all that ahead of time because I knew if I got in the middle of things, I would totally forget. If you know me at all, I'm like a dog. It's like squirrel, and I get totally sidetracked. Okay, so we are going to stop that share. And first of all, so where are you guys today? How has the rest of the sessions been? Have you guys picked up any great lead gen activities that you weren't doing before? Like maybe even actually picking up the phone and calling people?
Yes.
Yes, going well.
Actually, yes.
Tiptoeing wading into the pool, I'll
Good.
say.
Good. And and I've said this before on another class or two, this is such a great time of the year to reach out to anyone and everyone you know, because you're updating your holiday list and your Christmas card list. And everyone appreciates that because who doesn't want a Christmas card? I just got a stack of them in the mail. I was super excited. Like everyone wants to know they're getting a card from someone. So it makes it, at least for me, I know when I first started using that pretense to call people and then start that conversation in real estate, I know was a lot easier for me. And you know how I'm the queen of wanting to hit that easy button whenever I can. It just made me feel more comfortable because I wasn't calling to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. I was updating my address book and my data. And I was having a conversation with that friend who I wasn't sure if I had the right street number or are they even in that house anymore. So it's just a natural opening for that. So good. Is anyone, what were your ahas from the last session? What did we do? Last session was, I know what that is. Kathy did it. She did FSBOs, right?
Farming.
Or farming, sorry. Farming, that's right. FSBOs are on Friday. How was the farming one?
Hey.
Have any of you guys, I know farming's a little harder right now, at least the in-person door knocking and so forth, but have you guys, what has anyone been doing for that? If anything?
I created a Christmas card, a 5x7 Christmas card that I print myself. It really isn't a Christmas card. It's kind of a, hey, it's been a tough year, so I thought I'd spread some holiday cheer kind of card. And I throw away a candy cane and I put it in a plastic clear door hanger bag and hang it on doors.
That's perfect. That's funny because I have an agent who actually has moved away, and she handed me off a box of exactly that. I think the candy canes ended up being snacks in the office, but you know, she just did that. She went around her neighborhood and hung it on the door. And you guys, you can get those clear hanger bags at the FMLS store. And if you haven't done any shopping with them lately, all you do is you order it online through FMLS actually, and then they have it sitting on a shelf outside, so you don't have to go in. I have to be honest, I really like it this way because I would always go into FMLS store looking for one thing and come out $100 later. Never failed. I'd always spend $100. It's like Costco. You know, you go in for one thing and $400 later, you're like, I have no idea what I bought, but I'm super happy. FMLS store is dangerous that way. I won't lie. All those things I didn't know I needed. So that's great. I love that, Tony. Anyone else?
I'm doing a charity drive, Susan.
What are you doing for that?
Yeah, I'm doing it in the neighborhoods near me, and I got the idea from the office request for donations for the North Fulton Community Charities food pantry and the men's shelter, homeless shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't get all my stuff by tomorrow, but I'm still going to do the drive and then drop the items off myself at the charities. So
Perfect.
I created
I
a flyer
love that.
for that, and I did that for Red Day too, and it was pretty successful. So
Great. Have you had a response for it already?
I'm sorry.
Have you had a good response so far?
Actually, I'm just starting this evening. So I created my flyer. It's done. I'm getting it printed this evening, and I'm going to spend the day tomorrow starting that collection.
Okay, awesome.
I mean,
That's
I had
great.
a good response for the Red Day drive, so I'm going to try and do it twice a year. That's on my
Yeah,
plan.
and that's perfect. And that's a great touch to your neighborhood and your sphere and your farm for twice a year. So if you're looking at, oh, I had that, I put it away. You know, I had my 36 touch ideas. I had a list from a class we did a couple of years ago, actually, of things to do. And a great thing to do is to plot your calendar out for the year. Like in the beginning of each month, write what your touch is for the month. And so you don't have to remember it. So I don't know about you, but I'm thinking like, I don't know, what is my January touch? I don't remember. And it's like, oh, I send out any of the tax forms or the closing settlement statements for any of my transactions this year. And then I offer evaluations to clients and neighbors. And I have like, you know, a list of about 30 that over the last 5 years, you know, more people have added on each year, and I just send it out to them automatically now. But like, I forget. So that's great. So make sure you mark your calendar. And a little helpful hint, because I've been working on my coach with this since I am the queen of last minute, is put it on your calendar the month before so that you have all of that ready ahead of time. So you're not scrambling during the hard holiday time. I'm doing the same thing, Donna. I did my pie event last month, probably a week later than I needed to. And I'm doing hot chocolate right now for my clients. And I'm probably, I won't say a week behind, but I feel like I'm a few days behind. But I'll get it all done by the end of the week. But I've done marketing events and drop-offs and you know, charity drives. And when I've done them ahead of time, it's amazing how much easier it is because you're not running around so much. So just don't be like Susan comments. I always say that, like, don't be like me, be smarter. So, well, great. Anyone else have any input on how they're farming? Okay, well, today we're doing, again, open houses. For those of you that just jumped on, and I think there are a few of you, when the recording happens, you can go back. I shared with you on FMLS how you can pull up what properties in the office are on the market. So you can directly call agents and say, hey, Susan, I see you have a listing over in Brookhaven. I would love to do your open house this week. And are you doing any? And most agents, unless they have a client that, you know, specifically does not want open houses, most will be like, oh my gosh, could you really? That'd be great. Because they may have buyers they're working with and going out with them, or they may, you know, it's the holidays, so they may have something going on with their family. So it's a great way for you to target who actually has listings and to be that first person who asks them if they can do an open house. And remember too, that open houses don't only happen on Sunday. They can happen on Saturday as well. So remember that too. Well, cool. So question for you all. Oops, I went ahead. And I'm going to go into a little bit of slide sharing just because.
Susan,
Yeah.
so speaking of days of the week to hold open houses, I've also heard recently people saying that, a Friday afternoon, like lunchtime, or Wednesday or Thursday evening would be okay too for a shorter period of time. Or maybe, like I guess a 2 hour is probably, general time frame. But can you speak to holiday recommendations, given, like the
Yeah,
next,
with the
let's say
holiday
the
coming up
month?
too. Yeah, let me like pull out my calendar because I have to be honest, I've my running around with my head chopped off as usual. So I think you could still do open houses this weekend. I wouldn't recommend doing them on Christmas weekend, even though there are going to be some people in town, possibly out of towners, looking at the potential. And the same with the following weekend, New Year's Eve weekend. It's a hit or miss on those. As for the weeknight ones, I have done that before, and I've done like a happy hour open house. But since it's not really recommended to be serving food or anything besides bottled something or bagged something, I guess you could have cans of beer sort of thing and the little sippy boxes of wine for the winos. So you could probably still do something like that. But I've done like sangria ones on a Wednesday night, which it was always seemed like it was more of my friends stopping by for a glass of sangria because they know that my sangria is awesome.
Right.
But sometimes I would get other people too. So yeah, you definitely can do those. I think a lot of those, like even caravans, for example, we used to do caravans on Tuesday to get input from agents as to like, okay, what are your thoughts on the house? Do you think the price is good? Is there anything I should do to make it show better? And it just seems I've done 2 now since COVID, and I had I should say I had 5 agents probably show up to both of them, and none of them were from our office, which is frustrating because I had lunch catering for 30 in individual little boxes. So everything was like grab and go. So a couple of those agents went home with multiple lunches, which was fine. But so you can, I just wouldn't recommend possibly investing in a snack unless it's a bag of chips or, something that's pre-bagged that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you definitely can. It just it depends on the house. It depends on the area. Depends on the time of the year, frankly. So there's no rule saying you can't do it on another day besides Saturday and Sunday. So yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Why is that my phone? Why is my screen share? Okay, it's gonna make me curse. Okay. So or use the cursor. Open houses we don't call them haven't mets to mets anymore. I know we have a new term for them and I can't think what it is. But they do. Open houses are one of those, they're the easiest and simplest, fastest, cheapest way to grow your business. And here's why. Because open houses, you're going to be getting, not only are you trying to sell the house that is there, and you might find a buyer for that, but when you're also a listing agent, you're going to also get buyers from that and possibly other people that want to sell their house in the area. So it's kind of one of those, I often say a BOGO. It's kind of a 2-for-1. You're going to get both buyers and sellers from an open house, which is really important because you through the buyers, you're also going to possibly get a listing from them because most people have to sell a house before they can buy a house. So how many of you have been out on Saturday or Sunday and you're just kind of doing a joyride of real estate, basically, before you had your license? My husband and I, that used to be our Saturday pastime, before the kids probably, but we'd be like, hey, let's go check out that house. I've always wondered what that neighborhood's like, or that house looks like on the inside. There's always that house too that you're dying to see. So there are a lot of people that do that, but they know people who might be looking, and they might be actively looking at some point too. So it's about establishing that relationship with them, because real estate's all about the relationship, right? And then today, why are we here, of course? So today we're doing the open houses. You guys have done a lot already. You've done the prospecting and marketing, validity and positioning, prospecting, marketing, leveraging your database. It's important. Working with your METs, you're farming, we're doing open houses now. And the next one Bill will be doing for sales and expireds. So which is great. And what will make this a great training experience is because I have, first of all, always been a big fan of open houses. I promise my clients that I will do an open house every weekend if I need to until we get a contract. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be there. That mean I call on one of you awesome people to do it instead. But I promise them that if they want it. Now, not everyone wants that, and we have to remember that. Especially with COVID, there are a lot of people that don't want to have to worry about people being in their house if they're still living there. Or not. So just something to take into consideration. But the fact of the matter is open houses work. They still work. And people think in this day and age with digital that it doesn't. But people still want to kick tires and open doors and look at closet space and, see if it's a double water heater or a 30-gallon or a 50-gallon, because they have a teenage son who likes to take long showers or something. And the question is, are you at the open house to sell the house or to pick up buyers and sellers? And the answer is actually, you're there to do both. Yeah, so you're kind of dating on both sides, which seems a little weird maybe, but it's true. So one of the things you always want to have at your open houses is make sure you have a good sign-in list. And don't be like me and forget your sign-in folder and be using whatever scrap of paper you can find, or the backside of one of your flyers. I mean, you can if you have to. Been there, done that. But I always try to have a good folder with the simple sign-in sheet that I use. And I use one that just basically has their name, phone number, email. And then the last question I ask them, are they working with an agent? And then I put, if so, whom? So that if we've had a great conversation with that person coming through, whether they're a buyer, or maybe even, a lot of times you'll get, again, neighbors in there who are looking to put their house in the market in the neighborhood. They're already working with another agent, and you can just call them and say, hey, I talked to your clients, just wanted to let you know. And one of the things I noticed that they said is that they realized that they need to do a little work on the house, their house, to get it showing ready. So I wanted to let you know that they're open to that. And again, that other agent's going to totally appreciate that feedback, because any of you who've had a listing know that you have clients who are going to be totally hesitant to do that. In fact, who was it? I think just posted over the weekend, Marinelli, posted a picture of, on the Facebook page, she posted a picture of clients who did not want to paint the wood paneling in the house. And she kind of said, listen, I'm a professional. This is what I do. I see what the trends are. They painted it white. It made the room look completely different. It went from 1970s ick to like, wow, cute farmhouse now. So it makes a difference. And sometimes the agents won't hear that from their clients. So anyway, it's helpful to do. And again, it's creating relationships, because here's the thing, that agent, if your house is still on the market when theirs hits the market, they may have someone who doesn't like their house because, I don't know, I'll use an example I have. I have a listing that's kind of very much of a townhouse feel. It's very vertical. And it doesn't have a living room and a great room. It just has a dining room and a great room, kitchen kind of area. And a lot of people have given feedback that they wish they had one more room on the main level. Well, there's another house in the neighborhood that's higher priced, but I'll say, oh, there's another great house down there that kind of has more of that floor plan. You should go check it out. And I've already called that agent, because I call her on how many showings she's had. Like, hey, has the market dried up for you? Have you been having showings? Have you gotten any offers? And I try to, even if it's not an agent in the office, I try to have that relationship with them. And I'm happy to send people over to that listing if it's the right listing for them potentially, if I know that they're saying no. And Tony's done an open house at this listing for me, so he understands. And I think if Miss Steele is on there too, on here today, I didn't look to see everyone. It's the same thing. You have to love a vertical floor plan to like this house, and that's probably been the biggest comment for everyone. Yep. And when you come from that contribution of like, hey, I saw this other house in the neighborhood or nearby that might be a better fit for you, people remember that. They remember, and especially if they aren't having a great relationship with their agent, not that they're going to jump ship and go to you, but they might remember to bring your name up when someone says, hey, do you recommend an agent? They might remember that 5-minute conversation they had at that open house with you because they took your business card. So just remember that. All those conversations are always those future relationships that you're having. And it's important. And here's the thing about open houses. So buyers and sellers think about open houses. If they had 100 buyers, 44 visited the open house, 39 buyers leave the open house unrepresented or represented by another agent, but 5 buyers probably use that agent from an open house. So that's really, if you look at it, it's about a 1 in 6, 1 in 7 people coming through will be possibly working with you. So if you can end up getting a lot of people coming in, that would be great. I'm just looking at my cheat sheet, sorry here. And then, yeah, and again, open houses sell the house but they also generate leads for you, which is important. So, and they could be leads that are 5 months, 6 months down the road. Because, excuse me, goodness, somebody is out, you know, kind of kicking tires and checking out the area. Maybe they're in town because they're on a job interview and they actually came into town for a job interview possibly, or someone knows that baby number 2 is arriving and they need to upsize, and they know they probably need to do it within the next 6 months or so. So remember, all those people that walk through the door are potential clients of yours, and relationships too, which is important. Okay, I gotta make sure I'm on track here. Yeah, so I love the fact that again, the 5 buyers will use agents, and that's about a 1 out of 6 to 7 guests. So you can, you know, almost guarantee that if you have that many people come through, you should be able to have 1 client out of that. Okay, so what's your best? Has anyone had a really great open house that they felt really excited about? Like when they left that day, they felt like, wow, that was really worth it. I'm glad I spent those couple hours on a Sunday or a Saturday or a Wednesday or a Tuesday. Anyone have anything they want to share on that?
I would like to share an epic fail.
Oh, epic fails are the best learning.
Okay.
Share away, girl.
Here's my epic fail. I did an open house for Jan, and she did. I mean, she's amazing. Had everything ready for me. I know I was like this pathetic little thing that she took pity on, but there was a few couples that came through, and one was like, yeah, you know, maybe not. I've got someone I'm kind of working with out, you know, very non-committal. And I left and I had, you know, everyone's information. I'm like, this is never going to pan out. And I had sent a video, little video text to everyone. Hey, this is the house. Hope to see you, blah, blah, blah. And I just threw everything away. And then I get just the other day, like a week and a half later, I get a text back and it's one that I sent to from the house. And I don't have the name and I don't have any of the information because I thought it wasn't going to pan out. And she's like, you need to keep my number. You know, I might be reaching out. And so now I've had to go back and backtrack and figure out who it was. And so never take anything for granted is my epic failure note. Even if you don't feel it could happen.
Yeah. I love that too. That's awesome because that's a great thing. And I don't know about you, my husband calls me a number slut, actually. I need a better word for that. But when I get someone's number, I plug it in right away. And I also will scan my tally sheets because often you'll end up doing open houses for other agents, and you want to share who came by so that if they get a call on it from Joe Smith, they know that Joe Smith came by over the weekend for the open house, and it ended up that they're working with, you know, Kathy Ray. And so you want to end up having that for them, that information. But I always scan it I have a program on my phone called Genius Scan. So I always have it then. So that's a great way to do it, FYI, or to kind of keep that. But I was just going through, I cleaned out my bucket because my dining room is my office these days. And I cleaned it all off for Thanksgiving and I just threw everything in a big pile. So I was like, I'm going to purge a year's worth of working from home. And I had a lot of stuff, but I had open house sheets that I kept. And I have a file of all of my old open house sheets. Because here's the thing, you have maybe captured either their phone number or their email too. You can set them up on a smart plan for the area. You know, and that's an easy thing to do. You put them into contacts, met at open house at 123 Main Street, set them up on a smart plan for that area, if they're looking in that area, or if you had a conversation and they're like, I like this area, but I think I want to be up in Roswell instead. Great, set them up on a smart plan for a neighborhood watch through Kelly once a month. so they remember you. And also then they have your contact info. Because think about that. You didn't have their info. What if they went home and lost that and forgot which house it was because they went and saw like 10 open houses that day and they have no way to contact you either? That would be horrible, wouldn't it? I think it would be, so I always try to make sure that they have the opportunity to get a hold of me in any way, shape, or form that they can. But that's great. It wasn't a fail though, because eventually, so out of curiosity, how did you end up going and figuring out what their name was and so forth?
I did a fast people search, reverse looked up, and then I remembered her because she had a very unusual name.
Okay.
But I don't have the rest of her like details, and that's on me.
So here's the easy thing though. Say, hey, listen, it was so great seeing you again. I'm so glad you reached out. I think I did a typo when I took down or, put your email information. What's the best email for you?
Good. Yeah. Thanks.
Same with the phone number. If you have the email, but you don't have the phone number, do the same. Like, I think I must have transposed some numbers. What's the best phone number for you? Because that's an easy way to have them present that to you. And if they say, oh, I'd rather not, say, absolutely, I totally understand. We can, communicate by one or the other. So that's great. Does anyone else have a great epic open house story? Okay.
I had a recent good one. It turned out that I got a cash buyer from it. I'm still in contact with her. Some things happened where her and her husband are getting back together, but she's a contact. And then I got a person that needed to buy and sell, and worked on that listing presentation. Unfortunately, a team got it over me. I was the second person in line, but my point in the matter is they came in specifically looking for agents. They were interviewing agents, basically. They stayed at the open house for quite some time, and I could tell I was being interviewed just based off the question and how they pulled up a chair and just started talking to me. So, I mean, it potentially was going to be 3 sales from just that one. And actually that one, the sellers themselves had to buy and sell. So it's just so much can happen. What did it? Cody Gibson said 1 + 1 shouldn't equal 2, it should equal 4 and 5. That's
Yep.
exactly right.
And that can happen. People will come in to see how you're performing basically for the seller at an open house, just FYI. So, even though we have those days where we want to come in leggings and a super comfy sweater and a pair of flats and your hair kind of tousled like mine is today, try to make a point to look professional. That doesn't mean you have to wear heels, ladies. Don't wear heels. That's the worst thing you could do probably, unless you're super, super good in heels. But know that people are interviewing you and kind of looking. They're trying to see how you work, because if they want to know how you're working for someone else before they have you potentially work for them. So yeah, that's a great point. Sorry you didn't get that listing, but you know what? They're probably going to remember you down the road. So
yeah, they should, because they're overpriced right now, and there's no reason why in this market that it's still sitting after 50 something days.
Yep. And you know what? That means that you can continue to, send them market updates of the area. There's no rule. If they willingly gave you their contact information,
Sure.
you don't want to call them and poach them or anything like that, but just send them market information if you have them set up. So,
Okay.
that's great. Anyone else?
Susan, I had one last December, and it was I was holding a home open for another agent, and the gentleman came in by himself, and we hit it off. We're both pilots, and I gave him my app that afternoon, and he called me back the next day with 4 houses. So Monday we went out and looked at the 4 homes. He bought the 4th one. It was a $410,000 house, and closed 21 days later. It was a cash buyer, so we got it closed in December.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, I had that happen. I had clients that were they had their house for sale by owner on Zillow, to which I gave them total grief about, and finally talked them into listing with me, bought them a house then, and then just recently, month before, bought their parents a house. And we've established this really great relationship with the family. They're Lithuanian, and so when mama comes over to cook the big Lithuanian meal, I often get a phone call because I'm like, I love that food. It's so delicious. I happened to call them after that big storm, and they had 2 trees down on their house. And she's like, how did you know to call us? And I said, I didn't. I was just calling all my clients to make sure that you were okay. And she's like, do you have a roofer? We need one in. Who's the roofer that helped us when we bought the house? So I was able to share that. So again, it's relationships and having that. And they're like, some of my sweet people now, and I love that. So that's the beauty of this business. Clients can become friends and they become your allies. And when they become your allies, they are your best champions. They're the ones that are like, you have to work with Susan, or you have to work with Corey or Greta or Donna or whoever. You have to, it's just great. And it's not a forced thing, it's natural. I just love that. Okay. So again, myth, only open houses are for new agents looking for buyers. No, it's experienced agents continue to leverage open houses to generate both buyer and seller leads. I usually personally always do the first 3 open houses at least of my house if I have to do that many. And then I might let somebody else do my open houses, but I want those leads just as much as anyone does. So, because I worked hard to get that listing. And then I don't have any listings, so I can't hold an open house. Well, now you all have the tool to go into FMLS to find out who needs to hold an open house this weekend and use another agent listing. And it's a win-win for both of you. You might find them a buyer, and what better situation than for one of our agents in the office to be able to get to work with you on the other side co-oping. Like, I love when that happens because that you're going to be working with someone who's trained, great, and it just makes it a great transaction always.
Hey,
Susan, can I ask a quick question? I'm still unclear about whether we're able to approach agents outside of our market center to see if we can hold their listings open.
You can, but I would not cross brands. So for example, you could call Alpharetta or Chat North and try to host some open houses there, especially if there's any that are in your neighborhood too. But like, for example, if there was a Caldwell Banker listing, I would say no. I know Mama Melba would say no, 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 no. Because it's confusing if you're putting your signs out and there's another firm's sign in the yard. So you can, I know it's become confusing, especially with the Keys Please app. I know that can be cross-brand to find a showing agent. I would say no to, again, a non-Keller, but if you know someone that's with Keller with another office, I think that is okay. And I can double check on that to confirm. It's not encouraged, but I don't think there's any misdemeanors for that, if that makes sense. But I think the other offices is fine too. Because here's the thing, I have friends of mine in other offices that are with KW, and I would help them out if they needed help, and I would love for them to help me out if I needed help, if I couldn't find it. So, and we're kind of, I still like to look at us as all one big happy family.
Yeah, I've done open houses for each of our 2 other companion or sister offices, I guess.
Yeah, because you'll see people posting on, on the Georgia Legacy group looking for someone to host an open house this weekend. So again, now that you guys know the cheat way to pull up FMLS, you just need to find their codes. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I can find them. And then you can plug that in on FMLS to pull up their active listings and if there are any open house opportunities for you there.
Susan,
Yeah, lots of time.
I was just trying to pull up the listing the way you showed us, and it didn't work for me. So okay. I looked up, I added the list agent ID and added KWRO01, and it said 0, and I did residential, attached, and non-attached.
And active?
And active, and coming soon. And nothing came.
Yeah, there weren't any coming soon that I noticed. Here, let me see here.
I only saw 33 listings.
Yeah, just check all of them.
Check all of them.
Same thing. I checked all the statuses.
Yeah, there are only 33. Share screen.
33 detached.
Correct. So I would do both. As I said, I would put both detached and attached. So you
Yeah.
went in there and then you added the extra list office code.
Yep. List office code. I think I did list agent ID. That's what it was.
Oh, that's why.
You did-
Yeah, you have to do the office code.
Because I would have to have the specific agent ID, MLS ID for that. Never mind.
Correct.
Thank
Correct.
you.
So no,
thought-
no problem.
ID on there for some reason.
Yeah, so there's 52 currently. So there's good pickings. There's like 2 for each of you for the weekend. Again, probably stay away from the Country Club of the South and the higher price one. They typically don't do open houses, just FYI.
Mm.
Okay, we'll stop
So
that.
what would you suggest as the price point? What would be
You
the
know
maximum
what?
price point?
Like just in particular, there's certain neighborhoods, some of the gated communities do not like open houses. Not all of them, but some of them. Like Ansley on the Lake, I think is okay with them, but Country Club of the South are pretty much appointment only at the guard gate. And I can't say Ansley on the Lake or not. I can't remember if I've seen an open house or been to an open house up there or sent a client to an open house or not.
I would my suggestion would probably do open houses where the inventory is like 3 months and below.
Correct. Which is, usually the higher priced places, unfortunately. And that doesn't mean it's not worth giving that agent a call saying, hey, have you ever thought of doing an open house? Would that work out? So it's always worth a phone call, but I would say, probably below $1 million. And again, certain neighborhoods are just going to be a hard no. So, and you'll find out it's hit or miss. And they could, maybe there's once a quarter that certain neighborhoods have like okay, you all can have an open house on this day. Who knows? But I would say in general, it's going to be that way. Okay, so let's go back to, I'm going to go back to my other share, sorry. Boop. Okay, so again, myth, agents sit open houses or they work open houses. They work them. If you're just sitting there reading a book while people walk around, they're feeling your energy, let's just say. Be energetic, try to, I like to have music in the background at my open houses. I have a playlist that I use on Spotify. I have a little portable speaker I bring. It just kind of creates that nice ambiance. I don't make cookies anymore. I may have on a couple occasions to give that little scent, but I don't anymore. But yeah, it's important to work the open houses, not to just sit there. So open houses work too. Sharon Keto, who's the builder's wife, and which is on, I think, page 12 of a story about her, how, well, have you guys gone over this packet already? Read this story here about Sharon Keto and Lance McGregor and the Builder's Wife group in Plano, Texas. It's pretty amazing, actually. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that.
What page is that on?
Page 12 for you all in your workbook.
Very cool.
It's pretty cool. And here's the thing. So you don't only have to do that with your listings. You can also do that with houses in the neighborhood. So there are a lot of agents that will end up partnering up with other houses. I'm going to use my Brookhaven listing as an example because that's what I have. But I did open house a couple months back, I guess, and there were 2 other properties on the market. And so I called the other agents. I said, hey, you want to do a big open house so that if you're advertising, I'm advertising, they're advertising, it's going to drive more people to it. And it's great because, again, they're all different floor plans. So one was going to work for the other. I probably sold those 2 houses for those agents by coming up with that idea. And oh, well, it'll come back to me. I know it will. Karma's always there. But it's a great way to do it, especially when you're in townhouse kind of communities. Those are great to do if there are multiple listings calling up. agents. And even especially when you do them on those different days too. I think that's a great time to do that. Like if you do a Wednesday night one, call those other agents and see if they want to partner up. Some people have done it where I know, for example, Country Club of the South, Peggy Connors, who's amazing there. She and the other agents, they'll do it. And they'll do it often for the caravans too, but they do it so that they have like almost a bingo card or some sort of a giveaway, but you have to hit all 3 or 4, however many properties are on the open house. You have to hit all of those to be entered in to win an Alexa or an Amazon gift card or something like that, something of value coming to them. But that's a great way to do it, to call other agents and plan it, especially if you've been a house that's been on the market for a little bit. Plan it so that like, okay, this week I'm going to do it and I plan on doing it the week after too. Have those conversations with those agents. But it's great that they, have this down there, and I don't know how recent that was done and what their inventory is in Plano, Texas. That would be a little challenging possibly to do, and especially if you have listings that are spread out all over Atlanta, but it's doable. But what I love about this, what pointed out to me, is that their schedule for, Wednesday, they start scheduling the homes that they want to be opened. Thursday, the website's updated. Friday, they start publishing the maps and email blast. And what that tells you is, that means that you need to remember to put in Georgia MLS and Georgia MLS and FMLS. You need to remember to put the open houses in there. Don't be like Susan. When I first started, I forgot to list the open house on open houses and FMLS. And I couldn't understand why nobody came by the house that day. I was really upset. And it was just like, all of a sudden I realized probably halfway through the afternoon, like, did I ever even put that on MLS? And here's the thing, if you don't do that, it's not going to be on realtor.com. It's not going to be on Zillow. And sad truth is, we all know that that's where consumers are looking. So any takeaways from this story on the lead generating with open houses?
I think it's great. And I think if you can develop a system for it, that can be easily implemented, kind of like a format or like a template where you have kind of start doing it and you establish contacts. It'll gain momentum the more you do it. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, you can partner up with, someone that's in this class and, hey, let's try to find open houses near each other this weekend. And then we can co-market them and co-brand them together. It's a great way to kind of get someone to come to your house and that house. So that's a great way to do it too. But I love just their thought process. And again, coming up with that system, which is perfect. Again, in this page on your manual on page 13, down at the bottom there, it's got kind of some great ideas. Create flyers that highlight several homes in one neighborhood. Again, coordinate maps to hand out to each open house if you can. Some neighborhoods
Susan?
you don't. Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How do you list your property as an open house and FMLS?
So kind of the same thing here. I'll stop this share. And I'll go to a new share. And here go the dogs. Sorry, Amazon truck in the cul-de-sac. Apologize ahead of time, everyone. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go into, what am I going to do? I'm going to go into my dashboard. And this is when you have the listing. So the listing agent is the one who has to actually put it in
Right.
to MLS. You can't as just the person who's holding the open house. But when you have the listing, go into My Listings, you're going to go Add Edit.
Uh-huh.
Select the listing. And then
Manage open
Manage
house.
open house.
Gotcha. Thank
Virtual tours are here too. So if you have a listing and you've done a virtual tour, maybe it's a Matterport 360, or you've done a walkthrough with your cell phone. That's where you can post that as well. So you just do that there. But remember, it always has to be the listing agent who ends up scheduling that, because it doesn't allow you unless they give you their login for FMLS. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, go back here. Bump, bump, bump. Okay, so I love that. Sorry. Open houses produce buyer sellers and referrals. Set a goal for your open houses. Set a goal to try to do it twice a month, every weekend, whatever. challenge yourself to see if in January and February you can, out of the, let's say there's 9 weekends, I'm totally guessing there, but I know there's 5 weekends. Well, it's probably 8 weekends, but try to see if you can do 3 or 4 open houses in that. And again, team up with others, hold multiples together, and hold consistent weekend open houses. Because also what will happen too, if you do have that kind of unique property that is taking a little longer to sell possibly, especially if it's a vacant property, it might be staged, but the people aren't living there. There's no reason not to hold an open house every single weekend. There really isn't.
Susan, quick, another question, because I'm the village idiot.
You are not. You are the king of questions.
Well, that's one way of putting it. I have a listing that I took last weekend, and it went under contract on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do an open house this weekend for them.
Good.
What kind of expectation should I have since it's active under contract?
You know what? You may get some people that people know that contracts fail.
Right.
I had two clients this spring that we were backup offers. One of them, we were the second backup offer.
Okay.
So we were really offer number 3 and we got it. So, so you might get some people, that are looking in that area. Who knows? I always hold open houses for my clients as a rule until we have gone pending.
Gotcha. That was going to be my next question. When do you stop doing them? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you gotta realize, Tony, with the new underwriting guidelines, they change daily almost. And people they'll call the day before and see if they're still working and all that kind of stuff, and things fall through and have fallen through.
Yeah, I did an ad. I did an ad on Facebook, and I'm getting a lot of some leads and a lot of bogus leads. People not giving you information, but the first thing I tell them is, hey, they go, oh, it's gone under contract. Yeah, but the seller is still accepting offers. So that's I go at it. So.
And let them know too that offers fall apart all the time. I know we've seen in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of offers fall apart because the Small Business Administration is finally posting the small business loans on people's credit line now. I know of a couple in the office that that became an issue. So it's it's not sold until it's sold, or it's not sold until it's pending. And even in pending, it can fall apart, frankly. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend going past the pending mode.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Pending to me is like once due diligence is done. I'm not necessarily waiting for the appraisal and the financing to be done. Really just due diligence. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, so this is just kind of, again, page 14, your guide. Prepare and promote. Don't be like Susan. Don't on Friday night remember to post your 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock Saturday open house. Try to remember to do it. So what I often do, because I need to make it Susan proof, is I will set an alarm on my calendar on a Tuesday or Wednesday to remember to put the open house open if we're going to do that. So specifically with, whichever property it is. So remember to do that. Again, make it Susan proof. During build, trust, and qualify the leads. Have that great conversation with someone. And worst case scenario is you have too many people coming through and you might be having a great conversation with somebody who you might see a future with as a potential client, and other people who are just like, hi, bye, kind of see you. And that happens. What I often do if I'm having that conversation with people is I say, don't mind, can we continue this? I just want to make sure that these people don't have any questions. And most people are great about that. And they maybe haven't looked at the whole house. Or make sure I have your phone number and I'd love to follow up with you a little later on this afternoon. Would that be okay? You're asking for permission to call them and they're probably going to say, yes, I'd love more information on the area, the house, the HOA, whatever it is. And that's the other thing too, being kind of the guest agent at an open house. You have a perfect opportunity if you don't have the seller's property disclosure or all the information on the HOA, or if there's a big retaining wall on the back wall, who maintains that? It's a great opportunity for you to be able to follow up with those people and get their numbers. So make sure that you get it right and that you can read what they've signed in too. which is important. Okay, you also follow up. If you don't follow up, there's no point for you to have been there. 0 point whatsoever. You wasted an afternoon if you're not following up. And I will admit, I am not the queen of follow-up. I'm getting better systems in place for that to happen for me. I'm good at follow-up, but I'm not great yet. And so that's an area, that's kind of a focus for me for 2021, is to be a better follow-upper. But if you don't follow up, you just wasted a couple hours of your life, frankly. So it's really important to do that. And also try to be the #1 market agent. Know the information. Don't go to an open house and like not know if you're in Brookhaven or Atlanta, or whether you're, you know, or what school district you're not in. Have that information, at least have a printout of the MLS listing. So it's right there. I mean, that gives you the school information. You know, you don't have to know the details and the scores on each of the schools, but you can pull that up and have that as a visiting agent. If the other agent doesn't have it there, that's a great thing to do. I usually say, yeah, I think the schools are great. Here's a great site to go see if the schools have, for example, the needs that you need for your children, or, you know, whatever it is. I try not to provide that for them. I don't want the liability of them picking the house and the schools not being as great, but I give them the information where they get to do that work. But, you know, I try to have that information too. I have, if it's a neighborhood without a swim and tennis, I let them know that there's, you know, but there are neighborhoods nearby that you can join. I have that in my neighborhood here where I live over in East Cobb. We don't have swim and tennis. I think that's my backyard, or swim at least. But there is one next door in Kings Cove that anyone can join. So, you know, it's a great opportunity. And that's, even though that's just bringing great information and being that #1, kind of making them feel that you're the #1 agent because you know your area. And you don't have to have a dictionary or a encyclopedia of info on the house and the neighborhood to really come across as being that #1 agent, knowing your stuff.
Hey, Susan.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, what if you also did a reverse prospecting to agents, letting them know, like, bring your buyer by. That could be a touch for them. They could rekindle a relationship, maybe call them saying, hey,
Yeah.
I noticed that you searched for your client. Have an open house. I'm more than, you know, you don't have to be present. I'm happy to honor everything.
Yep.
You know?
You can do that too. You can actually do that for the listing agent as well. If they're willing to share like a printout of the reverse prospecting on their listing that has the agents who have sent information out, and it has their phone number and their email. So you can either call them, you can also just cut and paste emails and send them out kind of a blind copy email so they don't know it went out to 300 agents.
Right.
Just letting them know your client was interested. I'm having an open house this weekend from 1 to 4, and your clients will be protected. I would love to show it to them if you're not able to. You know, who wouldn't love that? Sometimes you've got those, you know, or many of us have had clients who are tire kickers for a really, really long time. And sometimes them being able to go see a house without the agent right there with them sometimes gets them to move forward with that agent. So you're just helping out. And again, people, I'm a good karma girl. I believe that when you help out others, that karma comes back to you in spades. So, anyway, so that's, yes, Tony.
Question. Sorry. In terms of the day of the week, if you're doing an open house, say on Sunday, where's your sweet spot personally that you found from experience is the day that you do like your Facebook ad or you put it out on your Tony Gates Realtor page, whatever that is?
I would say for a Facebook ad for an open house, at least 3 days.
Gotcha.
Minimum. So I would say no later than Thursday, really, because remember you have to have that day for it to go. So actually really almost Wednesday.
Right.
For it to go. I'm not counting the day of. So probably Wednesday you need to have that ad in because you want to do at least 3 days for them, for people to come to it and click on it.
Gotcha. Thanks.
To generate those leads. Yeah. I try to remember to like think about any upcoming whatever I have for the weekend that might need an ad, hopefully by Tuesday. Because then I've got that, you know, do I have time to whip together a quick something in designs to make it happen? And usually any of the listing agents are completely fine with you pulling pictures from the MLS to be able to create some sort of something in designs on your own. So I always ask And whenever anyone does an open house for me, I always tell them, feel free to grab whatever from MLS and, pick the pictures you like better. So I think that's easy to do. But yeah, I would say at least Wednesday. Any other questions on that? Okay, so what's the other thing here? We're on page 15, I guess. Open house myths, prepare and promote. Set your open house goals. Set one for the first quarter, guys, especially anyone who's a new agent. Say, I want to make sure I do at least 8 open houses this first quarter. That's a little more than 2 a month. Because the other thing is too, it's kind of the same thing like showing other people property, or other agents' clients' property for them because they're not able to. It's kind of like you're practicing on people that may or may not become clients, but allows you to kind of get your spiel down, your shtick, as my father-in-law used to say. Sometimes you think like, oh, it sounds really good if I say it this way, and then you try it with, a couple words inverted or switched a little bit, and you're like, oh, that sounds better. Try to do that though, because it also is practice makes perfect. It gets you comfortable with being around other agents. And here's the thing, you can jointly hold an open house with someone. If you think it's going to be a hot neighborhood or whatever, for whatever reason, or let's say, for example, it's a house that just came out of contract and the agent's not able to because they're taking other clients out. You might want to have 2 people there. If it's a really big house with a lot of square footage and you have nervous clients about things in their house and they haven't locked up whatever they needed to, I've always offered to say, oh, I can have someone come with me if that would make you more comfortable to be down in the basement, or, to be floating between the floors while I talk to people. So you can do that. Pair up with somebody. Have a buddy. Use the buddy system. Haven't we been doing that since like first grade? You can do that in real estate too, which is great. Decide which open house, houses to hold open now that you all know how to. That's perfect. Stage a house. So here's the thing. You aren't going to go stage someone else's listing if it's not staged, because you aren't going to incur that expense. However, if, like, let's say it's an empty house and there's not even a chair, and you know that, because here's a very important thing too. If you're going to hold an open house for somebody, go preview it. Don't just show up on Sunday or Saturday and walk in for the first time and wear 3-inch heels and realize you have 2 flights of stairs to go up and down all day long. Or realize that there might be little fuzzles or dead bugs in a corner, and you want to let the other agent know, like, hey, there's a lot of stuff on the ground, leaves, dead palmetto bugs, whatever. You might want to have that cleaned up, and then have them find out they're out of town and they can't get to it, and you might be able to be helpful and bring a broom with you. I have a battery operated leaf blower. I used to bring that with me to somebody who's open house so I can make sure that the driveway and the path into the house was nice and clear of debris. So be prepared, but most importantly, go preview the property before you hold the open house. If you can. I understand sometimes you can't because it might be a Friday and someone's asking you to do it the next day or Sunday, but try to. And again, because that allows you to then get an idea what else is on the market in the neighborhood too, without just looking at FMLS. Prepare to build relationships. Again, that's what real estate is. It's all about relationships. Relationships with potential clients, relationships with other agents. I think that's really important. I was out of town in September and I had an agent in the office who helped me with the transaction. It was my client, but I knew I was going to be gone. They were showing them. I had them write the whole contract, not knowing how quickly it was going to happen. And I just split the deal with him 50-50. So, having relationships with other agents in the office, that can happen too. Can't guarantee it, but it's always a possibility. And prepare to be the neighborhood and market expert in that area. And most importantly, be safe. Be very safe. Make sure if there's anyone that puts the hairs on the back of your neck up, there's probably a reason for that. So, and if you're in an area that you might think might warrant having a second person there, by all means, bring someone with you. There are areas that you would never think twice about, but there can be unsavory characters that go cruising open houses. So just know that. First and foremost, always be safe. If you don't have a mace or a pepper spray, get one, have it with you. I will sometimes pretend if I think someone's kind of creeping me out a little bit. I have even gone on the phone and said, oh, great, you're going to be here in 5 minutes. Awesome. I look forward to seeing you. Always let someone know where you're going to be for that open house when we're talking about safety. That's a really important thing. Let your family know. Obviously, the other agent's going to know. Let them know you'll follow up. And if you don't hear by 6 o'clock, call me, kind of thing. But be safe, first and foremost, because that's really, really important.
Susan, I
Okay.
have a question about that very thing. I always
Yeah.
forget. Sometimes when I do an open house in my listing, someone will ask me about crime in the area. And I know there's somewhere I'm supposed to direct them to. Is it just the local police? Like, is there a website?
There is a website, and I am not thinking of it off the top of my head, but I can send it out to you all. If someone knows it, feel free
Can
to
you
chime
just
in.
send it to the website on the GAR forms for the GBI, the one that's on the actual contract?
Yeah, you could do that one, but there are other ones too that you can do, that some are kind of like a rating of the neighborhood. It's not just so much, because there's also, then you want, if they want to know about sex offenders or anything like that, you can pull that up by map. So it's only because I'm a little brain dead today because of my tummy, but I can get that to y'all. I'm blanking on what it is.
Okay.
But there is a website that you can pull up a local crime. You can also do it through the local police department, actually, too. So, which is good.
Oh,
And
okay.
Susan, which sites do you use for the schools to
You know what?
direct people to?
I like the AJC's listing of schools, and they're continuous. But then School Finder is another good one that I have people, and I ask them to research that themselves, because I don't want to steer anyone to a school that I think is great and it may not be great for their kiddos for whatever reason. You know, they might be super math gifted, very musical. They might have special needs, that sort of stuff. So I always tell my buyers to research the schools, and I give them the sites.
And besides the AJC and School Finder, do you use Great Schools at all?
I've used Great Schools too. Yeah. I send those to them. I don't pull them up. I have used, I think it's Great Schools that I'll pull up the scores, or maybe it's School Finder. I can't remember. It's been a little bit since I printed that up, actually. And I'll do the rankings of the schools there. They do have that on there. So, whether it's an 8, a 7, and a 6. And when people ask about that interpretation too, here is kind of my stock answer for people. Sometimes you'll see where elementary schools have a higher score than maybe the high school does. And especially if it's an area, like there's an area over here in East Cobb, Brumby Elementary just was rebuilt, I guess it's 2 years ago now, maybe. And I've been kind of watching to see what their scores are and to see what their ranking is going up, because we all know that if you have a facility that kids are excited about, parents are proud of, parents become more involved, it's amazing how the scores go up. It's just a fact. I used to live in a school district in Ohio, same thing. And so sometimes when people ask the differential between that, like why is the elementary better and why is the high school not? I'll tell them, I'll let them know that's like, well, that means, that school is brand new. They've been putting a lot of effort into the extra testing, not so much testing, but the prep for the test, and the academics for the kiddos, and after school programs that help the kids with homeworks, things like that. If I need, like if it's my listing, I'll try to find that stuff out. But I'll explain to them that sometimes when the elementary school has been kind of updated and renewed interest, I won't say new, but renewed interest in that, and their programs and their curriculum has happened, it often takes a couple years for it to show up in the high school. So I'm like, that's an example that I'm kind of watching, because I want to be able to say, yeah, for example, 3 years ago, Brumby used to be not such a great school, and now look at the scores. It's heading on its way to be one of the top elementary schools in the state. And I don't know that for sure yet, but it's an interesting statistical thing that I like to look at, because I've seen it happen before with other schools. But yeah, so I give them the sites. I don't necessarily point them to one or the other, because they're going to search sites based on what they need for their kids. Sometimes the hazards of that is that they have 15 school districts they want you to look in. And then you end up showing them 100 properties, and that's not good. But yeah, so for that, I'll share those sites with them. I do like the AJCs though still. I still like what their breakdown is. I don't know why. Maybe because I use that when I looked here, I'm not sure. Anyway, let's prepare for an open house. So set house goals. So when you set goals, should you set those goals the morning of the open house, or maybe that Tuesday before the open house, or Wednesday or Thursday?
Before.
Yeah, well, definitely before, not the morning of. I mean, the goals the morning of could be like, okay, I have 2 black shoes on, I'm fully dressed, I have makeup on, I made it out. I got out of my sweats and my leggings. But you want to like kind of, set some goals to see. Make it a challenge to yourself. And part of that would be doing some Facebook ads too, making sure that the neighbors in the neighborhood are aware of the open house. Now I'm not telling you to go out and necessarily do a postcard with an open house this weekend. But you could bag drop if you wanted to, get some of those great little bags at FMLS store, print up a flyer with the open house, and, go walk around 100 houses in the neighborhood to try to get people, because most of them will be looky-loos, but they know someone who they want to move into the neighborhood. And that's a great way to ask something too. Instead of like, hey, do you know anyone that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? You can say, hey, so do you know anyone that you want to have as your neighbor? Like, don't you have a best friend that you're hoping is your neighbor now? And that can be very effective in trying to get people to think about who they might know that's looking to buy in the area. So, and you can even put the flyer that way. Like, I'm looking for your new awesome neighbor. Open house is Sunday, 1 to 4. And bring me your friends, kind of thing. So, which is great. Have a goal of numbers of buyers or sellers, and then percentage of attendance to number of invitations. So, and I do like to look at that. Like if I did walk, and I haven't done that in a while, but I used to try to walk 100 houses for every open house. For that first open house, I wouldn't necessarily do it the other weekends. And I would try to see how many people came by, and I would kind of do a little checklist on my sign-in sheet on the back. I'd have like a hashtag. Some people would sign in, so that would help too, but I kind of did a hash mark count too. And I would we all know that it's probably going to be, with any marketing material, 10% is a good return. So if you put out 100, you're hoping to get 10 people to come by, 10 groups to come by. So do that, keep track of that. And again, number of open houses you will work in a given time. Set a goal to work X amount of open houses this next quarter, and make that a priority. Instead of just like on Wednesday or Thursday, like, yeah, I think I have it off. Be like, no, I'm going to be purposeful about this. I'm going to find an open house to do. And by doing that, you're going to be purposely finding buyers and sellers for your business, which is awesome. Great byproduct of it. Any questions on that? Okay, this is on page 16. So again, just decide which house to hold open. So look at, when you pull up the FMLS list, then you can click on map. And so, which is easy, so you don't have to think about it. One of the things I used to do for my open houses is I would often go to an area that I wasn't familiar with. Why would I do that?
To become familiar?
Correct. It would make me do a little research on the neighborhood, pull up the schools, find out what their scores are. It allows me to become an expert in other areas. So when people say, oh, do you only work East Cobb? It's like, no, I work the whole Atlanta metro area. I'll go anywhere. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, how do you do that? It's like, because I check out properties in all sorts of areas of Atlanta. Now, do I do Conyers or Douglasville? No. But, I do a lot of areas. I'll do, again, I'm in East Cobb, so I'll do Roswell, I'll do Smyrna. I've done Cumming. I'll go to Alpharetta. It's like previewing. When you're previewing houses, I know Melba taught you to do an Ignite. I would do the same thing with previewing, but I would do it for open houses. I wouldn't always try to go too far, because if I got a listing, I didn't want to have to, be driving an hour necessarily. But, figure out what your range is that you want to do. Like if you're willing to go 30 minutes out, and that's, nowadays not so bad because of traffic being a lot lighter. But yeah, think about that. Think of an area you want to know about. It's like, hey, I want to know about East Cobb a little more. It challenges you to find out about that area. Excuse me. Is a house in a desirable neighborhood? Drive around the neighborhood before you open that door in the morning. Does the house have any special features? Make sure you find out about that too. So I always do that. I'll ask the agent. And again, when I go preview the house, what I think is a special feature might not be a special feature to someone else too, which is kind of funny. So make sure you kind of do that and have an opportunity to. You know, does the house have curb appeal? I have been known to bring a potted plant or two with me, not so much at this time of the year. Well, no, there's poinsettias actually. But I have a lot of potted plants in my backyard. And if I know that there's no curb appeal or front porch appeal, I'll bring a pot with me of pansies and put it on there and kind of make it look cute. You know, what do you see when you walk in the door? When you're doing someone else's open house, take a look at that. Because you know what, if you notice it needs to be swept, then get the broom out and sweep up a little bit for them. And then just maybe give them a heads up like, hey, you might want to run a vacuum through the house sometime in the near future. And because I think it's important. And when they walk in the door, are they going to see your coat and your purse piled or your briefcase piled in a corner? No, don't do that. Have that tucked away. Make sure, like, look at it from a potential buyer and then walking through the house. I think it's important. And then do you have a seller's open house checklist? So on page 17, you have a checklist of that. I'm not sure if I have a slide for this, do I? No, I don't. But on page 17, there's a great one. You know, put your valuables, like this is what you can tell your sellers. You know, make sure the valuables and jewelry and everything's tucked away. Guns, make sure that's locked. Preferably, if it's your listing and someone has guns, if they have a gun case that's like a glass one, I always ask them to remove that. I know it's like exciting for some people and they're like, oh, it's a hunter, that's great. But I think there are a lot of people that also, it makes them feel uncomfortable. So stuff like that. You know, again, this is for the seller. Clean your house, unclutter the countertops, you know, get as much off. And if you need to throw things in the dishwasher, not in an orderly fashion, by the way, but if they left dishes in the sink and, you know, left whatever crusty stuff, just throw it all in the dishwasher. You know what? Put it in there and be like, hey, by the way, I cleaned up the counters for you. Everything's in the dishwasher. You're welcome. And not necessarily in the dishwasher in a good way. You know, again, open the house. Lighter the brighter the better. If the weather's nice and it's not buggy season or yellow pollen season, open up some doors. Get the cross flow in there too. Get some, because especially if there's pets or funky something they cooked for dinner last night, you know, get some air circulating through. Play soft music. Again, get one of those cute little speakers. Oh, mine's at the office, I guess. I have one of those little, I don't know, YouTube speakers. And my kids got it for me for Christmas a couple years ago. It wasn't super expensive. And it's great to have. You can put it anywhere in the house too, which is great. Great for events as well. Make sure your house smells good. If it's stinky, I had kind of a co-listing in my neighborhood once, and I have a bunch of essential oils that I put then in some baking soda, and I kind of put in various rooms of the house. You can do that as opposed to having something super perfumey like an air wick or a plug-in or something like that. Sometimes those can be a little offensive to people walking in the door. I know I have a hard time with them with my allergies. I can spot them right away. I can also spot a cat in a house within 2 paces because my nose tells me right away. You know, make sure the thermostat's adjusted comfortably. Make sure the pets are in a safe place, either created in the garage or gone, preferably. You know, make sure the patio and the lawn looks good. Clean the front door or paint. Remove all clutter from the entrance area. And this is just a great, simple checklist that you can end up having for your sellers. So, which is great. Okay, prepare and promote. So prepare to build relationships. What questions will you ask your guests to build rapport? Like, what would be a good question someone might have? I'm checking my time here too, because I'm the queen of going over. Okay. Oh gosh, we got a lot of information to get to. Okay, what are some great questions though to get through that you ask people when you're doing an open house? Who's got one? Who has an open mind?
Typically, after introducing myself and asking them who they are, I ask them if they're just out looking at houses or if they live in the neighborhood, and how they found out about the open house.
Perfect. That's a great question to ask, Donna, because you want to know, okay, I saw it on Facebook. Did that work? No, someone dropped a flyer off at my home. Okay, boom, one of my flyers worked. So it allows you to kind of collect some of that data too on what systems you're setting up, which ones are effective. So that's great. I love that. Anyone else have a great line that they use?
Why are you interested in this neighborhood?
Yeah, great. Any others?
I like to ask them if they're local or if they're from out of town. Just, sometimes people, I've had a couple of people come from New York and I'm from New Jersey. So we kind of spark something about food and just
Yeah.
start talking, make them comfortable.
Oh yeah, and it's that connection. Yeah, I met someone the other day, a jeweler who was going to fix something of mine, and like we chatted for 45 minutes because he used to live in Ohio and where I lived in California, and we're like we're BFFs, aren't we? It was great. So yeah, those connections, those regional connections. But don't forget to ask the main important question: hey, are you guys in the market, or are you just out enjoying looking at properties today? Because you have to find out, are they actually motivated? Are they actual buyers? And then sometimes some of that regional stuff might come out. Or no, I'm just a neighbor. I wanted to see what the remodel looked like, or whatever they wanted to see. But don't forget to ask them if they're actually in the market. And then if they're in the market, say, oh, that's great. Are you working with an agent already? Maybe I know them. If you don't, I usually say, oh, I know that name. Sure. I don't think I've done a deal with them yet, though. I always do that, so it makes it seem like I know who they are. And you might know the name too, especially if it's a KW agent, because there are a lot of us around here. So that's important though. Build that rapport. So those are some great questions. Prepare to be the neighborhood and market expert again. How will you tell the neighborhood history? What you know of it, if you know anything. What do people really want to know? Have you prepared the information packet? And again, this is more for if you were actually doing your own listing. But again, if you're doing your own listing and having other agents do the open house for you, then make sure you have that information for them. For example, this last weekend, Miss Steele did an open house for me. And I forgot that the seller's disclosure and the community association had been tucked in a drawer because I did a reshoot of part of the house because I changed out some lighting and totally forgot to tell her. And then after, she's like, is there a disclosure? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So don't be like Susan. Again, make sure you have all that information for whomever may be doing your open house. Okay. Preparing for the open house. This is kind of some of the stuff we've gone through. What do buyers want to know? What do sellers want to know? Which is really important. Buyers want to know community and neighborhood information. This is on page 19 of your packet, by the way. The home buying process. Always make sure, I always have, myself, I use Kathy Vitale a lot. If you have another lender that you like, I always make sure that I have their information on hand, their business card on hand. I often will right there and then type out on my phone and email, dear Kathy, I'd like to introduce you to the Smiths. They're new to the area and are going to be moving in the next 3 months. They are looking for a local lender, and I told them you're the only one they should work for or work with. And I'll do that right there and then so that Kathy will get back to them. So it's great to do that. Schools, again, good to have those things. Relocation. Most people don't want to have census numbers and so forth, but you can, if they're concerned about coming to the area, like how many of you have ever moved to an area that you don't want to be in, but your spouse got a great opportunity with their job, so you're going anyway? That would be me. I have done that several times. Corporate tour of America. That's the only reason I'm in Atlanta. And that's okay. So sometimes you're going to have someone that's going to be a hard sell. And so you have to let them know, it's like, hey, listen, this isn't just ABC company town. We've also got, Coca-Cola. We've got a lot of education. We've got a lot of medical here. We've got a lot of high tech here. There's a lot of people from all over the world here, to kind of make them feel like they aren't coming to, the South and like, oh my gosh, all that what people that don't live in the South think the South might be. So just have some of that. Trust me, I needed that when I came here. First-time home buyers, the home buying process, if someone asks you, like, how does it work? It's like, well, first and foremost, we have to get you approved. So kind of go through that. Just know those steps. You don't go through that with everybody. Mortgage information, again, you can do Keller Mortgage. You can do Kathy Vitale. I always try to stay away from any of the big box lenders personally, because I find that when you have to have any answers to anything, it's always hard to find a person that will be willing to give you those answers on the phone. So I do try to stay with the smaller local lenders, just FYI. So, which is great. Okay. So, and then what do sellers want to know? They want to know market stats. Got chart masters. Pull up the chart masters for that area, the average days on market, average listing price, average houses that have had price reductions, stuff like that. Again, they're going to want to have the home selling process information and the refinancing information too. You might find someone who's just like, oh, we're fine here, but we probably should refinance. I maybe should take your lender's information. That's great. Give a shout out to Kathy or whomever you use. And again, be safe for open houses. And this is on page 20. I think it's really important upon entering the house, make sure all the rooms determine escape routes. Kind of have your backup plan. Again, that's ladies, why I don't wear heels. I want to make sure I can run sort of fast. I don't run fast at all, so sort of would be good for me. Make sure if you were to escape by the back door, you could escape from the backyard, because there are some backyards that are not necessarily easily escapable from. Check your cell phone strength and signal as well at the house, because that can be important. There are certain areas in Atlanta that have pretty lousy Wi-Fi or cell phone. Also know that too, one of the things I always say too for an open house, make sure you have checked your Supra before you leave your house, and make sure if there was an update the night before that you're unaware of, that you can actually go and do the update, so that when you go to open up that key in the lockbox, you can. I had that happen recently. It was my listing too. I couldn't get in. It was the craziest thing because they had done an update. I had to go find a McDonald's to find Wi-Fi to do the update. So don't be like Susan. Make sure you check that before you leave the house. Notify someone in your office or your family or whatever where you're going to be. And then when showing the house, always walk behind the prospect. Don't direct them down to the basement, for example, or into the closet. Kitchen's on your left, dining room's on your right. Kind of give them that. Okay. Pretty simple information there. Preparing for, that's that. We just went over that. Walk behind guests during tour. Okay. Prepare and promote. Prospecting around open houses. Should I prospect or should I market? Which is, kind of the bit, you should probably be doing both.
Both.
Yep. You should be proactively seeking leads, which is important. So that would be doing one of the Facebook ads on command, for example. That's proactively seeking leads for that, which is pretty great. To get in this business, I'm on page 21 here. Number one, you need to be a proactive person, not a reactive person. So the more planning and the thought process you put into that, the better. Door knocking, call your Mets. If you know someone that's in that neighborhood, hey, just want to let you know I'm holding an open house at 123 Main Street. I know you live in that neighborhood, and I thought you might know someone who might be looking to move in that neighborhood, and I'd love to talk to them, or I'd like to let them know that the open house is happening. And by the way, if you're out and about, pop on by. Take a look. They just redid the kitchen. It's gorgeous. Quick little script that you can, something like that, you can do that. But door knocking is proactively seeking leads, or calling your Mets, calling your database, basically, is, I believe, what we refer to it now. Marketing, passively attracting leads. Adopt the right mindset. Make sure you're kind of doing that too. I know probably most people right now haven't been doing door knocking, so we'll kind of ignore that part kind of right now. But door knocking, once we can do it again and people feel comfortable with it, it's a thing you can do. And you can still really do it now. You just kind of knock on the door and stand back 10 feet or a little more than 6 feet, depending on how the property is. So make sure you do.
Susan, I door knocked around Kim Liptrott's condo.
Yeah.
When we did an open house, and I'll do it again for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, so most people are kind of receptive. Actually, let's be honest, it's Georgia. It's still politics season, thankfully not. Just kidding. But I don't know about you, but I have had a lot of door knocking going on in the last couple of weeks, even since the election, because they're, both sides are out. All parties have been knocking on my door. So, people are doing it. I think it just depends on the neighborhood, and bring a buddy, go door knock together. I think that looks a little less scary for people that are afraid to open doors, and people can talk through the door too, and that's okay.
Hey, question about door knocking and neighborhoods that have no solicitation policy. Can you touch on that?
So I think technically you're not supposed to, but you're not soliciting, you're providing information. You're not asking them to buy the house. You're letting them know there's going to be an open house. So there's going to be somebody who gets cranky with you, definitely. But it's a little bit of an interpretation. Technically, you probably shouldn't. In a gated community, definitely don't.
Okay, what about so what if you're not prospecting for an open house, but you want to, let's say it's your own neighborhood and there's a no solicitation.
You live in the neighborhood. You're stopping by to say hi to your neighbors.
Right? Yeah, okay, but that's pretty much the only exception. If there's
Yeah.
a no, unless it's gated, I mean, unless it's you're prospecting for an open house.
Correct. Absolutely. And I would say to definitely stay away from any gated communities unless you happen to live in one. I have seen some agents that have gotten some pretty nasty calls to the office from people that live in that neighborhood, like how the heck did they get in there and why are they knocking on doors? And again, bring a buddy. I would say too, in this day and age, I would still probably bring a buddy. It's more fun that way too. Because you kind of learn from each other and kind of feed off of each other too. So I love doing that. You know what? Adopt the right mindset. Call your people. Call the people that you know that might live in that area. The power of signage too. So we're on page 25 here. Signage is really important. Your listing, you've got there and you've got signs out. And maybe someone has, a competitor has a dominant market share. That's okay. Look what happens when you hold an open house though. So if you go to page 26, it can end up being, you got open house signs all sorts of different places, and you might end up getting some of those listings in the neighborhood. So signage is important. If you haven't done open house signs, here's what I would recommend doing. Do open house. You can do specifically Saturday and or Sunday signs, the little kind of arrow ones too. Don't buy big ones, get smaller ones. They're lower in price. But if you get one that just says open house, then you can get a rider from FMLS or from many places that says open Sunday 1 to 4 or open Saturday 1 to 4. So that you can just order one type of sign and then have a rider that you put on top of it. So that's a way to be a little more cost effective and a little more economical, especially when you're starting out. Also, it's fine to borrow signs from, another agent if you don't have any, like especially the listing agent if you're doing someone else's open house. But it is really, really important for the signage, I think, definitely. And I try to put my signs out on Thursday, if I remember. And not all of them, but I'll probably in strategic neighborhoods, I'll put, open house Sunday 1 to 4, like at the main entrances into a neighborhood. And I'll definitely put one in front of the house. And then I'll go back on Saturday and put a few more out. Because here's the thing, the sign police in most of the counties, as of 5 o'clock on Friday, they don't do anything until Monday. So like Roswell, East Cobb, when you've got signs in kind of right-of-way areas and so forth, there's someone out there I know who's lost signs like I have. You don't have to worry. Now, there are some neighborhoods that are going to pull down all of your signs. Like Willow Point over in East Cobb here, they pull those signs down except for the one in the front of your yard. They don't like the directional signs except for the day of the open house. Okay? So, but make sure signs are really important. And it's just kind of showing, the dominant mind share there too. Sign design, what matters? Brand yourself. Be sure to put your name in large print on the signs. People will see your name over and over again. I don't necessarily recommend, especially for the ladies, I do not recommend putting your picture on a sign. And here's why. There's some creepy people out there, and we all know that our picture that ends up on a sign or something is our most lovely picture. And there's no reason to encourage some creepy person to be stalking you because they like a blonde realtor or something. Plus, I want my name to be known. I don't care about my face. I want them to know my name. So I'd rather have my name in bigger letters than have part of that sign have a picture of me. So I think it's important to do that.
Do we have to have all of these approved? Like I'm very
run them by Lucy.
Okay.
Run your new signs by Lucy. It's pretty standard, but here's the thing. You've got Keller Williams requirements.
Yeah.
You have NARS requirements, and you have the state of Georgia requirements, and a bonus, we have the Southeast region requirements. So we have 4 different levels of requirements we have. So I kind of go with on my signs, mine's pretty simple. Has the office name, my phone number. I think the office number has to be on there still, and each office is independently owned and operated. And I think that's it. But Lucy has those standards. I haven't kept up on them, to be honest with you. I haven't bought new signs lately, so that's why. If I had, I would have been able to rattle that off to you. But Lucy will have kind of those prerequisites for you, and you can run a buyer if you're questioning that.
Okay, thank you.
And because there are some agents out there who will like rat you out if the colors are wrong, if you do a black sign, and you're not a luxury listing agent, and you have to be part of luxury to be able to do the black signs, that sort of thing. There'll be some people that get cranky because they pay extra for that privilege and that designation, and they don't want just anyone to be able to do that. So, just check. It's easy. She'll be able to tell you, but pretty much it's your name, rank, and serial number, and the office information as well. Okay, signage placement. So you've got all sorts of different, signs, different. So this is showing you the streets, which is kind of cute. Put them all, if you have a lot of signs, put them all out. Make it obnoxious on that day for the open house. I think it's I have people in my community, especially when I have a listing in East Cobb, they laugh like, oh, she's at it again, which I love because they're noticing that my signs are out. And that's what the important thing is. You want people in your sphere to notice that. Oh, and the dogs are going to go again. Here comes Amazon. Invest in a large quantity of signs. The more you buy, it's the less per price. I usually, when I order new signs, I order them in at least a dozen. If you can afford to, go ahead and do that. You get usually a better price point on that too. I usually use build a sign for kind of the simple signs if I can. I don't use balloons anymore. I've gone to pinwheels. Balloons are bad for the environment, so I'm trying to do my part. But I got little pinwheel spinny things at the dollar store, and depending on what their base is, either I put a shish kebab steak in my sign, and if it's a hollow straw type thing, then I put it over that. Or if it's one that's solid, I just kind of have to trim it away a little bit to put it in the little corrugated kind of channel. If that makes sense. Place out signs 5 days before open house. Okay, that's not possible in all neighborhoods, just fact. You'll lose a lot of signs that way. Ask neighbors with corner lots to place signs. Do not assume that you can place a sign on a corner house yard unless you know that person or you have asked them. Often what I've done is I've shown up with or I'll go and knock and ask him, and I might show up with like a pound of coffee from my favorite coffee roaster or a Starbucks gift card, thank you note kind of thing. Place directional signs at every turn if you can. Again, maximum 3 turns. You don't want it, and we know it's Georgia and there are neighborhoods that like wind all the way back. So just know that do the big intersections if you can, and kind of, if you're at the point where it's like there's only one way they can go down that street, don't feel the need to put it down a couple more cul-de-sacs or whatever. And then phone number on open house lawn sign, always. Sign design, you guys can kind of go over that sort of stuff. For promoting your open houses, newspapers, if anyone does that anymore, mail outs, MLS, of course, internet marketing, utilize Command, it's awesome. Coaching courses, Homes Open House Today. I've actually never used that. Has anyone used the homes.opentoday.com? I always forget about it. I won't fib. So those are some great things too. Checklist, review open house checklist, pages 33 to 34. Okay, let's build trust and quality leads. And I'm trying to be good because I know I only have 20 minutes as usual. I can never get through a segment in a timely way ever. What actions can you take to build trust with buyers and sellers? And how does building trust affect the rapport you have with the buyers and sellers? How have some of you done that at open houses, or even discussing it with your clients on whether or not they want to have an open house? Because you're going to have that client who's a little grumpy and doesn't want strangers walking through their house. Has anyone come across that? And what have you used for the objection?
I think it's just asking them questions and getting them to talk, and putting some curiosity around your questions. So if they make a statement, I don't really like that. Oh, well, what about it don't you like? And just gently exploring, and it's a lot of your tone of voice and your body language and the way you're you're being present with them, you're
Mhm.
reading their energy, matching and mirroring. It's a lot of the it's not so much what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. But it is what you're doing as well.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the matching and mirroring too, because that is probably one of the best skills that you could try to improve upon if you're not great at it. And don't take single yes, no answers. Probe a little further into it, asking those probing questions, definitely. Why don't you like open house? Oh, my sister Susie lost her favorite breakfast or bracelet that way. Okay, did Susie have it out on her nightstand maybe? Things like that. But yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Repeat and affirm and the forward.
Yes, I love both of those. I love the forward because that's just easy. How many of you guys, forward was in one of the earlier sections, was it not?
Yep.
Okay, good. Just double checking. It should have been, I know, but I want to make sure. Yeah, I think forward is like the easiest way to remember how to talk to people, frankly. It makes it Susan proof because all you have to do is ask those 4 little probing questions and everyone's going to open up. It's great.
Right. And do you remember a while back with Ray in the NLP? He said never to use "I understand" because it can come across condescending and are you sure you can really understand?
Yeah.
3 things he said is say, I appreciate, I can respect, or I agree. And that's what I use it on my prospecting calls when I get an objection. I can appreciate that. I can respect that. And then they stop. It's almost like they stop and like, oh, okay. So she can't, so those 3 things are really good.
Those are good. I also like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. It's kind of a simple way, but yeah, I agree. You want to make sure that you don't come across as being condescending with anyone. So that's important. Well, good. Anyone else? Okay, trust mindset. Consistency is key. Again, have you prepared and promoted? You have, because you're starting on a Tuesday or Wednesday getting it done. Have you internalized your scripts? So it's a great time to practice your scripts as you're walking around the house, as you're standing in the mirror before you go to open house, and make sure that you have things to say when people ask you questions, or even how to break small talk. That's a really hard thing for, I think, the majority of us to do. However, once you're able to kind of master being able to do that, I think you will always do well in real estate. But make sure that you have those scripts. There's some of those scripts that are just, they're the objection scripts. They're the, what are you doing? There's so many of them that will be able to open up into further conversation and allow you to get more information from that buyer or seller. Again, your goals and action plan for the open house, and if you consider what your guests will be looking for. That's why I always say go in looking as if you were the buyer. Be picky, be nitpicky. Notice that ball of dog hair down the hallway, like you would see at my house. Notice stuff like that. And then be prepared to deal with it too. Again, build a rapport, look for clues, how you can meet their needs.
Question.
Yeah.
On scripts, it seems like there's a lot of script sources floating around.
There are.
And is there like a centralized library we have, or is it just like a constellation and we just have to go looking,
Yeah, it's a little bit of a constellation. So here it is. Most of the scripts are grouped by kind of the buyers, sellers, lead gen, so forth. And I think at the end of this packet there are probably actually some scripts.
If you've been through Ignite, or if you're going to go through Ignite, there's a toolkit that goes along with Ignite that has a lot of scripts in it if you're a script person.
Yeah, but there's some scripts that we're almost there, page 44, start some for open houses. Every segment, I think, in here has scripts, or I should say not every, but most of them do. So I think, it's like, hi, what's your name? Yeah, so there are a bunch of scripts in here starting on page 44 in this section of your whole program. And there should be some other ones too. Like I'm sure there were some on the farming and script, questions and conversations to have with people when you're knocking on doors. There will be some definitely on for sale by owners and expired listings with Bill on Friday. So there's some in here. And here's the thing, some of these scripts sound so horrible coming out of my mouth. Like I feel like I have, two heads, and I'm like, they don't feel right. You're going to find this simple lines that end up feeling very comfortable and natural to you. And what I like to say and what Donna likes to say, probably two different things. And what Tony likes to say, totally different thing too. So know that these are suggestions, and know that you can tweak them a little bit so they sound natural coming out of your mouth. Because there's nothing worse than saying a script and being like, oh my God, that sounded horrible. Are they going to even answer me? Because if you don't have confidence in saying the words that are, with the words that are coming out of your mouth too, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel that energy. But, like even just if you look on page 48, it's like, qualifying scripts. What are you looking for? What's your price range and your top and bottom dollar? And they're going to give you that range. Oh, that's a very large range. You'll find a lot of houses within that. Have you talked to a lender yet? No. Would you like to recommend, would you like me to recommend some lenders to you? And some of these scripts just become your natural conversation then eventually. And that's what I love. I have to be honest, I used to be able to say what some of my scripts were, and now some of them are just like part of my spiel because the scripts have become how I talk about real estate. Does that make sense? And then also note too, then out of in many of the segments in this program, there should be scripts at the last couple pages. So, okay, where are we here? Bump, bump, bump. Tour the home, again, we've talked about that. Qualify quickly when multiple groups arrive at the same time. Now with COVID, I don't know about you, but I've been making people wait, or depending on the size of the house, I'll be like I just did a small little 1,300 square foot house. When I had people inside, I had the next group go outside and check out the perimeter and the storage area below the house. So you can kind of manipulate that. I have yet to have anyone be cranky about me doing that and saying, we're only having one group in at a time if you don't mind. People have been very responsive to that and appreciate that for the most part.
New home construction is doing that same type of thing.
What's that?
New home construction is doing the same type of thing that you're doing. One, two in at a time.
Yeah, and people, and again, there's, so if you have, we had 10 offers on this property up in Duluth 2 weeks ago, and we had a line at the open house, and which was great. And so I just told people like, okay, if you two want to go in the backyard and kind of look around there, then, when you come back, you'll be next in. Or I had people go out the back deck, so then I could shoot people in the front door, and they went out that way. It just kind of depended. The flow was, when I had like a couple people, it was easier to do one way. And then when I had too many people, I did it a different way. So just kind of get a feel. But I have only had one person in this year, and I've done, I would say I've done probably a dozen open houses this year, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I've only been back in production since like June, really. So, excuse me. So it's actually been quite a bit. And I think I've only had one person who was a little grumpy about it, and I could tell they were a neighbor anyway. They weren't anyone who was looking to buy. So, and set that positive tone when they come in and say, oh, I, so appreciate it. What I always tell people, I promised my sellers that I would monitor how people came in to make sure, for safety of them when they get back. And most people are like, oh, I totally get that. Have doors open, have cabinets open, have a drawer open so people can see how much space there is, that sort of thing. That's something else you can do too. Contribution principle. Ask your guests what information they might need, arrange a drop off or send real estate information to them, email even. If it's someone who seems like they're really, really interested, say, well, I would love to get together for coffee this week. Would that work for you? We could coffee over Zoom, or we could, meet and sit outside someplace. So there's some options for that too. And make sure that you get everyone to sign the guest book. I ask for everyone too, even if they say I have an agent, say that's great. I promised my seller I would let them know how many people came through today. And the only way they believe me is when someone fills out the form. And most people chuckle over that. And ask for the business. Don't be afraid. Would you like to buy this house? Or who do you know who might like to see this house? I'd be happy to show it to them. Again, Those are scripts right there. Simple questions. Thank the guests too when they come. Say thanks so much for coming out today. I really appreciate it and all your feedback. If you have any questions on anything about real estate whatsoever, don't ever hesitate to call me. And then jot down specific information on guests. So what I do is on my sign-in sheet, I don't have it two-sided. I have it single-sided, and then I'll write down a note on the back where the line that they signed, like came with wife and daughter. Mentioned they had a lot of dogs, you know, whatever it is to jar my memory on who they were. Hi, Melly, I just saw you there. Back off, girlfriend. I've got 9 minutes.
You're good. I'm just saying I can't see you because you're still on the screen.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry.
You share your screen. I couldn't see you.
I know. Make calls, send notes, email, work your database. Handwritten notes, people love them. Handwritten notes are the best. Send it to them. They love it. Scripts for conversation. Those are in those next couple of pages. Nikki Ubadani, she's awesome. But scripts allow you to be a little bit in control of your conversation because you can kind of steer the conversation. So those are really great to use too. Role model. I don't think we have time for me to role model some of these, and I've kind of said some of them too, but you know, make sure that you read these scripts and kind of look them and see the ones that you like and you know, put them in the front of a notebook if you guys have like a journal notebook or in your calendar. Just kind of put it there because until you get used to the script, it's going to be like, oh, what did I want to say? And so I always try to put it someplace where I remember to find it, as opposed to, oh, which class was that they had that great one-line zinger that was good. So I think it's important to do too. Again, I wish we had time for role play, but we don't really. Open house scripts again, start on page 44 and go through to, I think it's 49, or maybe even more. And they're different scripts on qualifying, potential listing even, people just walking through, people who are just neighbors, looking at the kitchen remodel, that sort of stuff. And then follow-up. Follow-up is so key, so important. Here we go, follow-up. You know, update your database. Put them in, if they gave you their name and phone number, put it in there and come up with a tag. You can say open house, or you can do open house 123 Main Street. You can put open house date, because what if you want to send information? Let's say, for example, it's the second weekend. So Tony, you're doing an open house for your property that's under contract already. Let's say you meet someone on this Sunday who really liked the property, but wasn't going to put an offer in or a backup offer because, you know, they don't want that stress and they don't want to be depressed because they didn't get the house. And you put them in your database, and all of a sudden financing falls through in another 2 weeks, and you can go in and check your database, and you're going to put open house on, you know, 12/18, boom. Those are the people that came through on that date. You know, open house 12/18, whatever code system works for you in regard to how you do tag, put tags in for people that you meet at open house and put the address so that when you go to contact them, you remember where you know them from, or put it in the notes at least. Yeah. Like in my notes, if I've had a great conversation with someone, I'll put like, had a great conversation, child's going off to college, deciding which school, I was plugging USC or Ohio State, or, you know, whatever the conversation was, put it in there so it jars your memory when you go to call them and talk to them. And then put a follow-up task, create a task, and in a week, call them and say, hey, just checking on you. Do you find anything else? Do you have time for coffee? We can Zoom it or meet. Again, as long as they don't have an agent. Follow up with the visiting agents too. You know, call them. Whenever you see anyone do a Supra, like go through too on showings, call them and say, hey, I see you showed my house. Thank you so much. I hope it was the perfect house for your client. What time is your offer coming over? I've done that before with someone if I knew they were playful. And they'd laugh saying, oh, they really, really liked it, but they didn't like this, or they didn't like that, or it's a little above their price range or whatever. Again, I've referred people to other properties if I knew something that was happening. One of the other lines that I often use too, especially with unrepresented buyers, is I will remind them, I'll let them know that I am a family of 1,000 agents, AKA our office, Alpharetta and Chat North. I'll be like, oh, well, if you're really having a hard time looking, I happen to, you know, as I call them, have 1,000 siblings, agents, and I often find houses for my clients before they hit the market. So I'd love to keep in touch with you in case I find that diamond in the rough that you're looking for. And I can say I have a closing on Friday that was a property just like that. we co-opted with an agent from Chat North who had not put their house on the market, and we got to see it the day before it hit the market, and we had an offer in our hand that night at list price. So it works. So that's a great line to use too, with agents, not with agents, with guests. Make sure your guests could be buyers who want to buy with you, or sellers who want to list with you, who will then possibly become buyers. And then, people who are waiting to become leads, and agents who could be recruited too. Don't forget about your downline. Profit share is a real thing. So know that that's a potential too. And also someone who might refer you because they had a great conversation with you at the open house. They may not be looking to buy or sell, but they're ready for you. And then just be the #1 market agent. Putting it all together. What are your ahas from this? Any whatsoever? Except for I talk a lot. And here, let me get out of here.
I think just being more intentional and preparing well in advance and setting goals.
Great. I love it. So here's the challenge I have for you guys. I want you to see if you can identify some activity possibly that might make you be a little more purposeful and allow you to reach your goal. And, kind of thing, I expect all of you to be pulling up anyone who has a listing in the office, or Alpharetta's office, or Chat North's office, and trying to see if any of them would like to hold an open house, or would like you to hold an open house for them, I should say. And then, try to think of your action plan and do it ahead of time. And know too that listing agents might not remember to put it in FMLS. So it's okay to remind them, hey, would you like to put that in FMLS on Tuesday or Wednesday, do you think would be better? So, remind them of that. As I said, I've forgotten to put my own listing in FMLS. So it happens. We get busy, squirrel, something happens. And then come with your action plan. I love on page 56, it's got kind of your thing. So you can print that sheet out and kind of like remind yourself, if you like to keep statistics on how your open house went over the year. I think that's a great thing to do too. Your lead generate action plan worksheet, I think that's a great one on page 57. It's kind of knowing your numbers, having your annual closed transactions. This is having you set goals. Again, I challenge you all to try to do 8 open houses in the first quarter. It's a little over 2 a month. I'm going to check back with you. I have your names. I know who you are. But I think it's a great thing to do. I'm probably going to challenge myself to do the same because I'm kind of restarting my business. So I don't have a lot of listings right now. I've worked with a lot of buyers this year, but I want listings. They're easier. Buyers are exhausting. They're adorable, but they're exhausting. So listings are your best too. Anyway, what questions do y'all have? And look at it. Oh my gosh, a minute to spare. It's a record. Be proud, Melly, be proud. I am the queen of going over.
I have a question about signage, Susan.
Yeah.
I did an open house with Ebony earlier in the year for a condo, and we weren't allowed to put any signs out front. So do you have any recommendations for attracting passersby when it comes to a condo in the city where you don't have green space?
They could be tricky. So they wouldn't even let you have one out at like the entry to the building that day?
No, as far as I can remember, no, it wasn't allowed.
Okay, because some of them will let you the day of. So there are a couple ways you can do that. You can do it Susan doesn't like to pay for things sometimes, and you can get a brick and mark where the holes of your wicket will go and drill some holes in there. So you can just put a sign, have a brick in your car with those little holes drilled, and that sign will stand up. Or you can also buy the teepee ones at FMLS store that's just open house. I know that a lot of those neighborhoods don't allow you to even have a for sale sign in the yard. And I've had a couple of those before too. However, you should be able to put open house signs out in front of the neighborhood on the entry into the neighborhood. And then maybe they'll let you have balloons tied to a mailbox if there is one in front. Or
so what I'm referring to is like a building, a high rise with condos in the city.
Yeah, so everyone's going to be different on that. Each building, HOA, and management's going to be different on that. I'm not sure the best way to do it. I think the best way to do it is have that conversation saying, how do you all deal with open houses on a weekend? You know, because people usually have to go through, many of them, especially downtown, have to show their driver's license and so forth. They maybe even have to get like special compensate or key pass sort of something to get up to that floor even. So have that conversation, that dialogue with whoever's at the front desk and whoever is in charge of that management, and just ask them. And usually sometimes you have to make a phone call and just ask them what that can be. But you might be able to still have like an open house, you know, teepee out on the sidewalk in front of the building.
Yeah, this particular one, they wanted absolutely nothing. They said no advertising whatsoever about this open house, having agents downstairs. Someone needs to be in the house, but nothing, no balloons, no signage, nothing at all.
So not even out on the sidewalk?
They wouldn't allow nothing. They said, we will not, you know, I contacted the HOA and I asked those questions as well. And they were just like, no. So I kind of just did it online because I felt that was the only way that I could.
Could you do, Ebony, could you do a human marquee?
I didn't hear you say that again.
Could you do a human marquee?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
More like hire a kid or somebody with a sign, throw it up in the air.
Oh,
Great idea, Nicole. Nice job.
I didn't think about that.
I
or
love
even
that.
yourself, a human marquee, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I knew I had 4 kids for a reason. Nice job, Nicole.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's also, you know what, bring a buddy then for that and tag team who's downstairs and who's upstairs. You can do that too. So have 2 agents at the open. I think that's a great way to do it too. Okay, any other questions? I did not get, I think Lee's going to send out the homework. Melly, how are we doing that? I did not get what the homework is for today, except for planning, you know, figuring out the weekends you're going to do open houses. Of course, you all are going to go into FMLS today and figure out what open house you're going to try to do this weekend, if any. I know it's kind of a hard time because we're right before the holiday, but go in and at least look at it and have that conversation with someone saying, hey, because here's the thing, they may have an open house coming up right after the new year. And again,
that I don't know, Susan, but I will ask Lee.
Yeah, well, I'm giving him a little bit.
Okay, well, Susan, give me your homework, guys.
Melody, you're so funny. But yeah, so look at that and, you know, call up some of the agents in the office who have listings and say, do you have any listings coming up right after the first of the year? I'd love to help you. Because remember, we have like enough agents that I blank on names. Like, I don't even know who to call for my open house this weekend kind of thing. I do it all the time. So if you have called somebody, they're going to remember you and how you're going to be front of mind for them to call and do the open house, which will then potentially get you those new leads, buyers and sellers. So no one have any questions?
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope I gave you some morsels of information today. I will be back for agent. I will be back for agent referrals. I believe it's next Monday now because we had to switch the schedule.
2008. My favorite.
Right, I know. Isn't that right? Yeah, because referrals will end up being on Monday, the 21st. Same time, same back channel. And how to work your referrals around the country. You're welcome. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.